Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Today is Juneteenth, a day meant to commemorate the end of slavery in the U.S. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Tripulsi. It was on this day in 1865, federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas to inform thousands of slaves of their emancipation. Julie Benbrook has a look at how the country and presidential candidates are marking the holiday.
From a historic honor flight to the nation's capital,
I feel very blessed and happy to be in America. I'm a happy black American.
To a march for freedom in Dallas.
July 4th freed the land. Juneteenth freed the people.
To celebrations from coast to coast. Juneteenth commemorated across the country. At a White House event last week, President Joe Biden said the day is a reminder that there is a lot more work to do.
Our history is not just about the past, it's about our present and our future.
The administration marking the occasion with a slew of actions aimed at preserving and promoting Black history, including funding to protect key historical sites. This as Biden warns supporters on the campaign trail of political efforts to revise history.
Did you ever think if you're anybody over 30 years old, you'd go through a period where banning books in America? They're trying to erase Black history.
During a celebration in Atlanta this week, Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black American, first South Asian American, and first woman elected to that position, used the stage to encourage people to get out and vote.
As we create traditions on top of those that have existed, think of Juneteenth as our call to action to register folks to vote.
In 2020, Biden received about 80% of the African American vote, but polling shows former President Donald Trump's support is growing. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
There are several Juneteenth celebrations happening here in San Diego, including an event for bird lovers. The World Beat Center hosted their second annual Harriet Tubman Freedom Bird Walk in Balboa Park today. It started at 9 a.m. and participants reflected on the significance of the day and learned about the nature tools Tubman used to help free hundreds of slaves.
They had to know the birds. She was a botanist. She was an astronomer and an herbalist. You know, she had to know these different herbs and the North Star. They were on the quilts too, the codes on the quilts, you know, what path to take. So this is a joyous holiday, and we got to keep it educational.
And this weekend, the World Beat Center celebrates Juneteenth and Black Music Month with a presentation of The World Is My Home, The Life and Times of Paul Robeson by Stogie Kenyatta. Robeson is a lawyer, actor, singer, and NFL Hall of Famer. The show starts at 7 p.m. Saturday and 4 p.m. on Sunday. A triple threat of dangerous weather is impacting millions of people across much of the U.S. today, and it comes in the form of wildfires, extreme heat, and flooding from the year's first named storm swirling in the Gulf of Mexico. Laura Aguirre brings us more.
I don't want to do it, but for safety reasons, I have to.
Surfside Beach is among a number of Texas ocean fronts closed on Wednesday. Tropical storm Alberto, the first named storm of this year's Atlantic hurricane season, is around 185 miles off Tampico, Mexico. But it's sending heavy rain and a massive storm surge north.
Go down on the beach and you get sucked out. Ain't nobody gonna come help you.
Coastal cities like Galveston, Matagordo, and Corpus Christi already grappling with rising floodwaters pushed ashore by Alberto-fueled winds. Forecasters predict Alberto's impacts will spread across much of Texas now through Thursday, and also into New Mexico, where the rain could help crews battling devastating wildfires. Tens of thousands of acres in the state have been charged so far, along with hundreds of homes and businesses. Ruidoso is one of the villages where residents were forced to evacuate.
We don't know what's going to happen with our home.
We're in a really severe drought, but with the high temperatures, low humidities, and then we get wind. We're getting explosive wildfires in areas that traditionally wouldn't be in that condition.
Extreme heat and dry conditions also persist across the Midwest and Northeast Wednesday, with exceptionally high or record-breaking temperatures in many cities from Illinois up into Maine.
People will say, well, extreme weather has always occurred, and people agree, except that it's occurring at a frequency we've never seen.
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
Well, we're dealing with that typical rhythm this time of the year with a lot of low clouds near the coast and through the morning, and then we'll get brighter into the afternoon. Overnight tonight, we'll get down into the low to mid 60s near the coastline. A little cooler into Ramona, 52, Borrego Springs, 71. But we're getting ready for a significant, prolonged desert heat wave off to the east beginning this weekend and right on through next week. And the heat's going to be building on Thursday. We're going to tell you how high we go with our full forecast in just a bit.
National City is opening its first homeless shelter. KPBS South Bay reporter Corey Suzuki says the news marks a major expansion of the services meant to help people experiencing homelessness in the South County.
The new shelter is called the South County Lighthouse. It's on Euclid Avenue on the southeast side of the city, and it's run by the nonprofit San Diego Rescue Mission. The Lighthouse will give people food, job training, and a place to sleep for 30 days, and then give them options to move on to somewhere else, like the Rescue Mission's long-term recovery center in downtown San Diego. And even though the organization is a faith-based Christian nonprofit, officials said they won't require anyone to take part in religious activities.
3, 2, 1.
National City's leaders said this project has been several years in the making.
This started happening about 3 or 4 years ago with the previous council, but I was still on the city council.
National City Council member Marcus Bush lives just down the street from the new shelter. When permits for the project came before the City Council in 2021, Bush says he rallied his neighbors to increase support.
You don't really find too many elected leaders that live right next door to a homeless shelter that actually support it, but this is what we need to do because this is a homeless crisis, and this is something that is needed in our community and that we need to address.
Welcome to the grand opening of our South County Lighthouse.
Rescue Mission officials said the new shelter is funded entirely by private donors and won't rely on any public dollars. But shelter staff will work with National City's outreach caseworkers to admit new clients. Rosie Vasquez is an advocate for the unsheltered community. She says this news is a big deal. Before this, the South Bay had almost nowhere else people could go for emergency housing.
What's great is we're not looking at a pilot program. We're looking at a programming that's already been implemented and that they've been able to find success. I think that's very encouraging for what they're going to do here in the South Bay.
Right now, the South County Lighthouse is accepting up to 75 people. By the end of the year, they hope to be housing more than 160. Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
A proposal to reroute train tracks away from the Bluffs in Del Mar is getting some pushback from its neighbor, Salana Beach. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne has the story from a public workshop about the railroad plans.
Researchers with Sandag say the Del Mar Bluffs erode by an average of 6 inches every year, creeping closer and closer to the tracks. For years, Sandag has explored many options of relocating and tunneling that portion of the rail line. Options that until recently seem to mostly impact the city of Del Mar. Sandag is giving the community more information on the 3 possible routes for the relocation of the Del Mar rail line. And one of those routes runs along the I-5 freeway. And that route starts right here at the Salana Beach train station. And some Salana Beach residents aren't too happy. They feel blindsided not knowing that there could be a tunnel running under their city. In the past, Sandag's community meetings have mostly been filled with Del Mar residents. But the one held Tuesday evening had a large turnout from the city of Salana Beach.
And I realized that one of the alternatives would go right through Salana Beach and would impact quite a bit of the life that we live and the centers where we shop, the rails to trails where we walk and run.
This was Donna Glenn's first time at a Sandag meeting. She says she was disappointed the agency didn't do more outreach with the city of Salana Beach.
So I don't want Del Mar to be impacted negatively. It's not a them and us situation. I hope that maybe we can get more information in Salana Beach so that we can understand the process and be heard.
Salana Beach Mayor Lisa Huebner was also at the meeting.
We had not been notified about this. We found this out a couple of weeks ago. Our community has not been engaged at all. Our businesses have not been engaged, nor has NCTD, the transit operators, nor has the fairgrounds. So we really need to have a lot more engagement and find an alternative that works for Del Mar, Salana Beach, and the region.
She says the route that starts in Salana Beach and runs along the I-5 freeway costs the most and would take the longest to build.
Alignment A doesn't pass the common sense test. It's extremely expensive. It's twice as much as any of the others. It also destroys a lot of infrastructure that the region already invested in.
Sandag is still collecting feedback from the community that could change the routes. Leif Genzer with the public transit advocacy group Right SD says it's interesting how pushback has shifted from city to city.
Now, the Del Mar residents are not really quiet. Now it's not going through their city when they had the arguments before saying something like, well, it's not the right decision, or it's not the right track. And now suddenly it is correct only because it doesn't go through their city. And now Salana Beach is acting up.
Whatever the choice, he thinks it should include 3 things.
What we care about is making the train fast, making it reliable, and making it electrified.
The public has until July 19th to submit their feedback on the project to Sandag, online or by mail. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The city has extended the deadline for youth, seniors, and people with disabilities to apply for discounted transit passes. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas has more on who's eligible and how to apply.
The San Diego Metropolitan Transit System is reminding reduced fare recipients to verify their eligibility. Reduced fares are available for people 65 and older, Medicare recipients, people with disabilities, and youth. To keep getting reduced fares, those riders need to verify their eligibility, either online or at the MTS Transit Store or North County Transit District Customer Service Centers. MTS Marketing and Communications Director Mark Olson says they've extended the deadline from June 30th to September 30th.
So the reason that we're going through this process is we launched our new fare collection system called Pronto back in 2021. When that launched, we had a very short timeline to convert, thousands and thousands of accounts from the old Compass system to the new Pronto system. So with that, we were just going on the honor system to allow people to get reduced fares like youth passes and senior passes.
Olson says MTS has already verified more than 18,000 accounts, but they estimate there are still 6,000 seniors and 19,000 youth who still need to be verified. If they don't, their cards will switch to adult passes at the end of September, doubling the cost of a day pass from $3 to $6 and a one-way trip from $1.25 to $2.50. Those looking to apply for or renew a reduced fare account may need to submit a government-issued ID or other verification document. More information is available online at sdmts.org. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
In our continuing coverage of changes to the U.S. asylum system, KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis profiles a family of Cuban asylum seekers. Their story illustrates how migrants with newborn children face unexpected obstacles.
Little Matias is no ordinary baby. His parents are Cuban migrants, and he was born in Tijuana on June 11th, just 1 week before his family was scheduled to enter the U.S. to pursue political asylum.
Ya tenía vigilancias que me estaban chequeando por parte del gobierno.
His father, Giovanni, is a Pentecostal pastor. He often criticized Cuba's communist dictatorship. In late 2023, he began noticing strange men attending his services.
Siempre había alguien del gobierno escuchando y espiando lo que yo hablaba.
He says those men were government spies. Giovanni, his wife Magalis, and their 2 teenage children fled Cuba in October 2023. Magalis didn't find out she was pregnant until a few months later. By then, the family was already in Mexico, heading towards Tijuana. Her due date was in June. Plenty of time to get into the U.S., or so they thought. Their plan was simple. Download the U.S. Customs and Border Protection's CBP One app on their smartphone, then fill out an application and schedule an appointment to enter the U.S. The Biden administration unveiled the app last year, and it is now the main way to access the U.S. asylum system. But it's been glitchy.
We are very familiar with all of the problems with CBP-1.
That is Melissa Crow, Director of Litigation for the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies.
Including but not limited to the fact that there are a very limited number of appointments that is far lower than the number of people who need them.
The result is long wait times that can be 6, 7, even 8 months or more.
Es como estar en una prisión. Es como estar en una prisión esperando que alguien te vaya y te ponga una fianza.
Giovanni described waiting in Mexico as being in a prison. They couldn't work, and they lived in constant fear that Mexican immigration officials might deport them. It took the family 6 months to get a CBP-1 appointment. And Matias was born just 1 week before they were scheduled to enter the United States.
Era tremendo. Era algo... No sabíamos cómo afrontar eso.
The birth threatened to derail their entire plan. That's because CBP-1 does not let people update their applications. There's no way to add another person, in this case a newborn, to their party. The idea of having to file another application and start the long wait time all over again brought Magalis to tears.
El temor, tanto tiempo que habíamos pasado, tantas cosas, y fue bien duro.
Volunteers at the Tijuana migrant shelter that the family lived in suggested they reach out to Enrique Lucero. He's head of Tijuana's Migrant Affairs Department.
Pero es algo que se está dando muy común, ¿no? Que nazcan aquí antes de obtener su cita.
He says the long wait times are making this scenario more and more common. Lucero told the family to get Matias a birth certificate and Mexican citizenship papers. Fast.
Porque no hay forma de editar la aplicación.
So just 2 days after being born, little Matias was in Tijuana City Hall, getting fingerprinted. His fingerprints left tiny smudges on the official paperwork, and Lucero stood in as the official witness, which is required by Mexican law. Lucero shared Matias's documents with Mexican immigration officials, who then passed them along to Customs and Border Protection. Lucero's intervention worked. On Tuesday, the family crossed into the U.S. together. Giovanni says he looks forward to living in a free country instead of a dictatorship.
Ser libre. Ya no tener que estar en un país donde vivimos una dictadura.
The family won't be in San Diego for long. They plan to connect with relatives in Utah. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Some family members of Boeing crash victims are demanding the company face prosecution. Now, signs are emerging they may get their wish. A whistleblower yesterday alleges Boeing had hid substandard parts from the FAA, lost track of them, and likely installed them on planes. Boeing has been under a deferred prosecution agreement stemming from crashes in 2018 and 2019. The Justice Department says Boeing violated that when a door plug flew off a plane in January.
You need to make sure that every part that's ever manufactured on these airplanes, it's not a bogus part.
We've heard from whistleblower after whistleblower that there is almost this sweatshop mentality on the Boeing factory floors.
Boeing says it's reviewing the claims. Boeing's CEO also says the company is working to change, and he apologized to victims' families. Today, the Senate passed a bipartisan bill to create more nuclear power in the U.S. The ADVANCE Act will make it easier, faster, and less expensive to build nuclear reactors. The act streamlines the permitting process by cutting fees and speeding up approval times. It encourages the production of small reactors, which provide less energy but take up less space and can be built in more locations. President Biden is expected to sign the bill into law. Baseball legend Willie Mays died yesterday at the age of 93. The Hall of Famer played 23 seasons in the Major League, spending most of that time with the New York and San Francisco Giants. According to a statement from the Giants, he died peacefully surrounded by his loved ones. Andy Scalise has more on the legacy Mays leaves behind.
From the time he set foot in the major leagues as a 20-year-old rookie for the New York Giants in 1951 to his last days with the Mets 22 years later, no one played like Willie Mays. Born in Alabama, he earned the nickname the Say Hey Kid for his enthusiasm towards baseball. He played in 24 All-Star games, was twice voted National League MVP, and slammed 660 home runs to rank 6th on the all-time list.
When I got the first hit off of one spawn, New York was like my family. They embraced me like my mother and dad says. And my dad says, when you go to New York, if they slap you, you turn the other cheek. Because if you don't, they're going to shoot you.
Mays was as dominant in the field as he was at the plate, winning 12 Gold Gloves. In Game 1 of the 1954 World Series, his over-the-shoulder catch was considered the key point in the Giants' shocking sweep of the Indians and has gone down in history as one of the game's most memorable catches.
People talk about the catch, and I don't understand why, because I did many things other than just, catch a ball. But when you find something like that in the World Series, they had to pick a highlight, and they picked, I guess, that one for the highlight.
In 1958, Mays made the move out west with the Giants and batted a career-high .347. 7 years later, Mays had one of his best seasons, clubbing 52 home runs, winning his second MVP award. During the 1972 season, the 41-year-old was dealt back to New York to play for the Mets. In what became the last at-bat of his career, Mays hit a game-winning single in the 12th inning of Game 2 of the 1973 World Series, putting an exclamation point on a one-of-a-kind career. But perhaps even greater than his performance on the field was the legacy he left off it. Playing his first major league game just 4 years after Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier, Mays helped to carry the torch for future black baseball players and athletes, and he inspired his community for generations to come.
A few years ago, Willie rode with me on Air Force One. I told him then what I'll tell all of you now. It's because of giants like Willie that someone like me could even think about running for president.
Well, we have some heat building across the region, and the warming trend's going to take over. So as we look ahead to a prolonged heat wave, the hottest of the hot will be next week in the deserts, but this is going to begin to build through the weekend as well. And for those of us in San Diego and near the coast, every morning this evening and through tonight, we'll see those clouds return. And then every morning through next week, those low clouds will be with us with a brighter afternoon sky. Tonight, we'll get down to 63 with low clouds returning near the coast. They'll be with us into the morning tomorrow as well. And we'll begin to step into the heat here at Borrego Springs at 106. You'll find relief in the mountains, Mount Laguna 72, and also relief right along the coastline from Chula Vista to Oceanside and in between. But we will get warmer out there. And on Friday, you can see the heat beginning to build even a little closer to the coastline. Again, we're going to find some relief right along the coast, but the heat will build into the deserts of Southern California and all areas nearby. One thing on a regional scale of interest, the wildfires near Ruidoso, New Mexico. We're getting some pretty good moisture here, thanks to Tropical Storm Alberto sending some of that extra moisture into eastern and southeastern New Mexico. So there will be some showers and also a big increase in dew point there. So the humidity is going to be helping fire crews out that way. We're going to stay dry, and we will be very warm, turning hotter. So for the coastline, we go through the mid-70s, upper 70s Saturday, Sunday 81. So it does get pretty warm, a noticeable jump in temperature even into the coastal areas. Inland, we make it from 80 to 90, a 10-degree jump from Thursday through Sunday, staying warm, if not hot, there on Monday. Into the mountains we go, and you're going to spend some time in the 70s, and it'll get a little breezy at times next week. But look at this, 90 degrees on Monday, really getting steamy. And for the deserts here, we're looking at temperatures consistently in triple digits. And on Monday, we're making a run at 110 degrees. We'll stay hot Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week as well. So a little hazy sunshine with that heat. For AccuWeather, I'm meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
The San Diego VA Medical Center is trying to get the word out to local veterans about the recent sweeping expansion of benefits under the PACT Act. KPBS military and veterans reporter Andrew Dyer has more about an event this weekend.
The White House called it the most significant expansion of veterans' benefits in 30 years. When the PACT Act went into effect last summer, a swath of medical conditions related to toxic exposure throughout decades of conflicts became presumed disabilities, meaning the VA is now less inclined to demand detailed documentation as it might with other conditions. With the new law, VA San Diego has been trying to reach local veterans currently not affiliated with the VA. VA San Diego's Scott Gomer says they estimate that number to be up to 80,000 veterans in San Diego County.
Some of them may just not be aware of how to sign up for health care. Some may have made a conscious decision to get health care elsewhere. Maybe they've got a good plan from their work or something like that. But again, we think it's beneficial for veterans to at least come check it out, see what's available. VetFest
is this Saturday at the VA's Kearney Mesa Clinic. It's the latest in a series of such events meant to reach some of these veterans.
The whole theme of a Vet Fest is kind of a summer picnic atmosphere. So we will have some food there and drinks and things like that. But again, we welcome veterans to come over, ask questions, share your stories. Maybe you'll find out about some benefits that you hadn't thought about.
He says even if a veteran has in the past had claims denied, that things are changing all the time, and some could now be eligible for compensation. Veterans can also find out about other VA benefits outside of healthcare. The event is Saturday from 10 to 2 at the Kearney Mesa VA Clinic on Arrow Drive. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On NPR's Morning Edition, millions of student loan borrowers could see lower payments this summer thanks to changes from the Biden administration, but there are also legal challenges. And in honor of the 30th anniversary of a beloved radio show, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria names June 21st Slow Jams Day. That and more on KPBS Midday Edition. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.